This cozy hoodie shrug is about to become your fall wardrobe staple, and I'm going to show you how to crochet it step by step. In today's tutorial, you're learning how to crochet this cozy hoodie shrug in gorgeous cornflower blue, the perfect fall layering piece. The best part, it mainly uses one beginner-friendly stitch, the extended half double crochet. It works up super fast with a category 4 yarn and features this adjustable drawstring hook. If you're new here, welcome! I'm T, maker of 600 plus patterns and tutorials. I share them every Wednesday and Sunday. Hit subscribe so you never miss one. And if you enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it helps keep these tutorials free. Any category 4 yarn will work. I used a total of 455 grams, that's 1,025 yards if you're stateside, along with a 5.5mm hook. Pattern link below, use code TCDDIY for a discount on orders over $9.99. Stay to the end for this week's pattern giveaway. We're using 4 stitches for this shrug hoodie, but don't worry, it's the extended half double with 4 other finishing touches. They're on screen now, pause to check it out. This tutorial is for a size small. You can adjust it for your size, and we explain how to in the video. So without further ado, here's how to make your own cozy cropped hoodie. Alright, let's get this modern crochet hoodie shrug started. First, we're going to need to master the extended half double crochet, or EHDC. Think of it as the cooler, smoother, taller cousin of the half double crochet. It works up super fast and gives you that sleek modern drape you'll see here. Ready? Let's get into this. First up, we're sculpting our underarm and creating the foundation chain for the front panel. We're all going to grab our category 4 yarn, make a slip knot. Then we're going to grab our, there we go, 5.5mm hook. Now we're going to make a chain that measures from just about 1 inch underneath your underarm down to mid-chest. This pattern's made to measure, so you'll customize it to your body. For reference, I'm going to make a chain 5, which measures just about 1 inch or 2 centimeters. The key here is to hold it up to your body every 5 or so chains to get the length you want. We're shooting for a cozy fit, so keep it comfy. And take note of your count as well. We'll need it for once we get to the back panel. In fact, keep your notes app ready. Or a pen and paper if you're old like me, because we'll jot down some other things, just like the amount of rows that we're about to do for our underarm. Perfect. Now hold this chain to our underarm. It should reach comfortably from our underarm down to mid-chest. If it feels good, ready to turn the chain into our new fall favorite. Now, we're going to create that flattering chest curve, starting with a decrease. Block off that last chain and chain 3. That's our turning chain, it doesn't count as a stitch. Then yarn over. Into the 4th chain from our hook, we're going to insert. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4. Insert in through that 4th chain, yarn over, pull through to get 3 loops on our hook. Also insert your hook into that next chain, pull through to get 4 loops on our hook. Now the extended part of an extended half double crochet is yarning over, and since this is a decrease, pulling through the first 2 loops on our hook. We're going to pull underneath 1 and also that second, ultimately giving us with 3 loops on our hook. This is the half double crochet part. So yarn over and pull through all 3. That is our decrease. We just shaped 2 stitches into 1. Now work 1 extended half double into every chain. Just to do 1, we're going to yarn over. Into that next chain, yarn over, pull through to get 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull through just that first loop. That's the extended part. To get 3 loops on our hook, then yarn over, pull through 3. That's the half double part. Once more, yarn over. Next chain, pull through. Yarn over, pull through 1. Yarn over and pull through all 3. We're going to stop when we have just 1 chain left, then we're saving that last chain for our underarm increase. Now since I'm here, we can do our increase. Now we're going to work 3 extended half double crochets all into that same spot. Doing the first one, yarn over. Into that last chain, pull through. Yarn over, pull through 1. Yarn over, pull through 3. 2 more into that same last chain. Row 1 is now complete. Now let's all validate our stitch count. This is really important. You should have one more stitch than chains that you made. So since I made a chain 5, I should have 6 stitches. Here's 1, top of the decrease, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Got it? Perfect. Row 2 is starting with a simple trick to add a little bit of texture just by working in the back loops. So let me show you what that means. We're all going to start row 2 with chain 3 and flip. Once again, chain 3, not a stitch, just our turning chain. Now, looking at the tops of the stitches from our previous row, you see these 2 loops at the top of each stitch? The one that's closest to you is the front loop. The one that's farthest away from you is the back loop. We're only inserting our hook underneath that back loop. That's going to create a subtle ridge that gives our shrug that modern structured look. Ready? Yarn over. We're starting this row with an increase as well. So inserting in through that back loop with 1 back loop, extended half double crochet. So extended half double per usual. 2 more into that same first back loop. Perfect, we should have 3 back loop extended half doubles into that first stitch. Now work 1 back loop extended half double crochet into every stitch. At the end of the row, we should have 2 more stitches than our row 1. Row 2 complete. Now we're going to repeat these 2 rows all within the back loops. So row 1, decrease and increase. Row 2, increase at the start and stitches all the way down. So the next setup is row 3, which is going to follow the same pattern as row 1. We just need to make sure that we end all on an odd number row to ensure we have a perfect foundation for that smooth shoulder shaping. So keep track of your row counts and feel free to write it down, just like how I'm going to do. We're repeating these to build from the mid underarm section of your side up to the front of your armpit, so roughly where your arm meets the front of your body. As you work, be sure to hold your piece up to your body every few rows to ensure you get your perfect fit. We all made it to the front of our armpit? Perfect. For my size, I have a total of 5 rows, that's 2.5 inches or 6 centimeters. If you're on an odd number row, you're golden. Go ahead and jot that down. If you're not, do 1 more row so that we're ready to build our shoulders. Then jot it down. This is where the magic happens because we're still shaping that strategic decrease. Starting from your armpit, so right where we left off, we're going to make a chain of an even number up to the top of your shoulder. For my size, I'm chaining 18. That's 4.5 inches or 12 centimeters. Write down your number of chains and also how many rows that we're about to do to stay consistent with our second side. And why even numbers, you may ask? To ensure our sleeves have an even number of stitches to work into for a clean look. Trust me, it makes a huge difference. With our chain, we're going to extend it half double all the way back down. Now a quick side note. Sometimes when we're working our way down our chain can twist. So once we reach the body, it seems like we just have the edges of the rows to work into. If that's the case, we're going to flip our work just a smidge and just 1 back loop extended half double into the rest of our stitches. Now here's the flow for the shoulder. We're decreasing at the beginning of every odd number row. That's the bottom edge where we want the chest curve to be. So next, chain 3, flip. Work a decrease of 2 back loop extended half doubles, the same technique that we use for the underarm, then continue with back loop extended half doubles into the rest of the row. Then our even number row is a straight row. Chain 3 and flip and work another back loop extended half double crochet into each stitch. No increases, no decreases, we're just building width. Now why this pattern works. Decreasing only into the odd number rows creates a gradual, natural curve that's going to hug our body perfectly. Our front panel really starts to take shape just after these few rows. So repeat these 2 rows until we reach the side of the base of our neck after an even number row. Okay, just a few rows in, we're going to pause here and check our work. You should start to see that gentle curve forming at the bottom edge. If it looks straight, double check your decreases on those odd number rows. If we're looking good, let's keep going. Beautiful work. We all should have finished that even number row, which means we're all at the bottom edge of our shrug. I have a total of 12 rows. This width is 6 inches or 15 centimeters. Now we're going to create our neckline. This is what gives our shrug the perfect comfortable fit around our neck. Now here's what we're going to do. We're all going to grab a stitch marker because placement is everything here. We're going to feel the base of our throat. You feel that little hollow right at the bottom of your neck? That's our landmark. We're going to place our stitch marker into the stitch that lines up directly next to the base of your neck, right at that hollow. Now from here, we're going to count the number of stitches up to the top of our shoulder, including our stitch marker. In that case for me, that's a total of 12 stitches. That's about 3 inches or 8 centimeters. Go ahead and write that number down as well. It makes our second shoulder a breeze. Now pro tip, try your work on before placing your stitch marker. It takes like 10 extra seconds, but guarantees a neckline that perfectly fits you. Now, the flow for the neckline. It's simpler than it sounds, I promise. Starting from where we left off, we're going to chain 3, flip. We're working along the chest up towards that stitch marker. So 1 back loop extended half double crochet into each stitch. We've reached our stitch marker, stop right there. Now reverse. So chain 3, flip, and 1 back loop extended half double, back down the same stitches that we just made. We're going to keep going, continuing on with our back loop extended half doubles across the entire chest section, working all the way to the other side of our neck. Now you see that? By working up to our stitch marker and back down, no increases, no decreases by the way, we've created that perfect neckline with no fuss. This is going to be the base that gives that comfy scoop neckline later with a simple hack. End this section on an odd number row, then we'll be right where we need to be to get started on the shoulder. Look at us, we're making great progress. We're just about 75% finished with the front panel, so let's go ahead and check our work before we wrap up. We are now at the other side of the base of our neck, ending on an odd number. Great. Now it's time to finish up our neckline. Now remember how we wrote down the number of stitches, including and above our stitch marker, creating our neckline? That's right, we're going to chain that number of stitches for our second shoulder. Easy peasy. Now I've just wrapped up my chain 12. Now chain 3 and into the 4th chain from our hook, 1 extended half double into every chain, then 1 back loop extended half double into every stitch down to the bottom. With that, our neckline is basically complete. Now let's continue our flattering chest curve. We'll achieve that on this side by doing increases at the beginning of our odd number rows. Our flow for this section is chain 3 and flip. Increase of 2 back loop extended half double crochets into that first stitch. Then 1 extended half double into each back loop. Then the following row is 1 back loop extended half double into every stitch. No increases, no decreases. Repeat these 2 rows for the same number of rows as our first shoulder. Mine was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 shoulder rows. We just wrapped up our second shoulder. Now we should have something that looks like this. My width is now 13.5 inches or 34 centimeters. Now for this next section, we want to mirror the same curve that we have for our first underarm. So insert your stitch marker into the same number of stitches as chains that we made that led up to our shoulder. Mine was 18. So my stitch marker is into the 18th stitch from the top. Now continuing to increase at the beginning of our odd number rows. We're going to start with an increase of 2 back loop extendeds, then work 1 into every stitch, leaving 3 stitches right before our stitch marker, because remember we increased at the top of our underarm, we're going to match that with a decrease. We should all have 1, 2, 3 stitches left. Now a decrease of 3 back loop extended halves. Yarn over into that third to last back loop, insert, pull through. Next stitch is back loop, pull through, and next stitch is back loop, pull through to have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over, pull through the first 1, 2, 3 loops, leaving us with 3 loops on our hook, then yarn over and pull through all 3. The next row starts with a decrease as well, so chain 3 and flip. And again, yarn over. Next stitch is back loop, pull through, next, pull through, next, pull through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on our hook. yarn over, pull through the first 3, leaving us with 3, yarn over, pull through 3, and complete this row by back loop extended half double crocheting into the rest of our stitches. For our last few underarm rows, we're repeating our 2 previous rows. That's a row where we increase 2, and at the end, decrease 3, followed by a row that starts with a decrease 3, then 1 back loop extended half into the rest of our stitches. Continue until we have the same number of rows as our first underarm, then cut. Front panel secured. My width is 15 inches or 38 centimeters. Now let's move on to the back panel. Now structurally, it's quite similar to the front, but with just a few key differences to keep things streamlined. Unlike the front, the back panel doesn't need to curve around the bust, so you'll notice fewer increases and decreases along the bottom edge. It's a simpler shape overall with no neckline shaping to worry about. This is a simplified mirror of the front. Same stitch rhythm, just a bit more relaxed. We're starting with the same underarm chain as our front panel. Mine was 5, so the seams can align perfectly. From here, we're increasing for the same number of rows for our front panel's underarm. We're going to chain 3, that's our turning chain. Now into the 4th chain from our hook, work 1 extended half double crochet into each chain, leaving the very last one untouched. We'll use that last chain for our increase, just like how we did the front. 1 chain left, here comes that fan-like increase. 3 extended half double crochets all into that final chain. With our row 1 completed, we should have 2 more stitches than chains made. Row 2, start with the same increase. 3 extended half double crochets within that first back loop. Then continue down the row with 1 back loop extended half double crochet into every stitch. We're going to repeat these 2 rows, all within the back loops again, for the same count as the front's underarm. We're all going to end right after an odd number row, that way we can work straight into the full width of the back together. Alrighty friends, our underarms got the same row count? Cool, we're looking pretty good. Now we're going to move on to the structure of the back panel. Now remember that chain we used that reached up to the shoulder earlier? We're bringing that back. Mine was 18, so I am going to chain 18. Then I'll be adding 3 more for that turning chain, and just extended half double into every chain, starting from the 4th from our hook. Then back loop extended half double into every stitch, just to keep up with the ribbing. Now for this panel, we're keeping it chill. No increases, no decreases, just back loop extended half double crochet rows until the piece stretches from one armpit across to the next. Now it might be a few rows shorter than the front panel. If that's the case, that's totally fine. The front needs a little bit more room for the bust, but the back, we're just going for smooth and streamlined. Make sure you end right after an even numbered row. That's going to set us up to work straight into the underarm from there, no fuss. Our back panel width, done and dusted. I have a total of 26 rows. This width, 13 inches or 33 centimeters. Now we're going to wrap up this beauty with our second underarm, then get ready to seam it all together. Start by placing a stitch marker into the same number of chains that led up to our shoulder, also like we did with the front panels. So for me, that's 18. This keeps everything symmetrical and sets us up perfectly for our sleeve. Next, we're doing decrease of 3 back loop extended halves along the top. And you may be asking why the decreases? Because it helps shape the shoulder curve that keeps the fit sleek, not bulky, and symmetry. Because we did it the same for the other underarms as well. Repeat these 2 rows for the same amount of rows as all of our other underarms, then cut. And once when all of that is done, you've officially completed your entire back panel. My width is now 14 inches or 35 centimeters. Up next, seaming your front and back panels together. Place your front panel on top of your back panel, and we're going to seam the shoulders first. Insert your hook into the top corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Insert your yarn onto your hook, pull through, and chain 1 just to secure. Single crocheting in through both the front and the back panel at the same time, we're going to put 2 single crochets to connect them. Finding the first side row within the front panel, insert in through that top loop. First side row, within the back panel, find the same top loop, insert. Now I will be weaving in my tail ends because I don't want to weave them in later, and I'm just going to single crochet around everything. Let's do this again. Same side row within the front, same side row within the back. I'm still placing my tail end over my hook, and I'm single crocheting around everything. Now, front and back panel are connected. Continue until we run out of side rows, then cut and repeat on the other side. Okie dokie, so our shoulders are seamed. Now we're going to really bring this piece to life with the side seam. We're using a single crochet seam here. It's simple, sturdy, and super satisfying, just like the shoulder seam. So make sure that the work is still flipped wrong side out, meaning the seams that we just did for the shoulders are along the outside. We're going to line up our front and back panel, insert your hook into the corner stitches starting from the hem, and we're going to work our way up towards the underarm with single crochets, catching both sides at the same time. This seam gives us structure without any bulk, and it's flexible just enough to move with you, perfect for everyday wear. And the best part, don't cut your yarn at the end. You'll end right at the underarm, which means you can flow straight into the sleeve without skipping a beat. Seamless transition, really. We're now single crocheting along the armhole to create a clean, sturdy foundation for our vertical sleeve rows. This round is all about structure and symmetry. We're working 2 single crochets into each side row, same technique as the shoulder by the way, and 1 single crochet into every stitch. That gives us a balanced edge that's really easy to build off of, so no puckering, no guesswork, just smooth sailing. Now for the magic. We're going to place 2 stitch markers into the stitches closest to our shoulder seam. These are our middle stitches, so there should be an even number of stitches on both sides. That symmetry is going to be our compass for shaping the sleeve. The markers tell you where exactly to stop your increases and start your decreases for that perfect set and fit. The base is laid, armhole anchored. Now we're going to build that sleeve. We're starting with the foundation chain that sets the length of your sleeve. This is where you get to choose your vibe. You want short, make it short, 3/4 full length, that's all up to you. Mine is a cozy 3/4, so I'm chaining 40. That gives me just about 10 inches or 25 centimeters of sleeve goodness. Once our chain's done, we'll work our way back up with extended half doubles into every chain, but leaving that last one untouched. Why? Glad you asked. Because we're going to use it to increase later to help shape the sleeve that's just right for that tailored look. Our first row has nearly been made. We should all have 1 chain left. Into that last chain, we're going to do an increase of 2 extended half doubles. So that's 1 into that last chain, and also a second into that same last chain. Now it's time to connect the row into the base, and this is where the balloon sleeve magic happens. We're going for cozy volume, so we're going to slip stitch into that very next stitch along the armhole. That slip stitch is going to anchor down our row 1, keeping everything secure and aligned, but also the secret sauce is that with our extended half double crochets, because they are a taller stitch and we're connecting it into a shorter stitch, we're naturally going to have more rows to work, and with the more rows, that means more drape, more softness, more that comfy balloon shape that we love. So finding that next stitch into the base, insert with a slip stitch. Now that slip stitch is just to anchor, does not count as a stitch at all. And to work our way up to the following row, we are going to slip stitch up that next stitch as well. Think of that as our turning chain. Still doesn't count as a stitch. Now we're going to flip our work and start with an increase of 2 back loop extendeds into the first stitch from our previous row. Double check and make sure that we're not working into those 2 slip stitches into the base. Remember, not stitches. Into the top of that last stitch with 2 back loop extended halves. Then 1 back loop extended half into the rest of our stitches. And next up is just building up the sleeve. We're going to continue repeating these 2 rows just until we're worked into that first stitch marker stitch. Once we are, we're going to complete the set and sleeve by decreasing down the other side. Same idea, but with decreases, but I'll show you how to do that once we get there. The increased side of our sleeve is done. Hello volume. Now we're heading down the other side of our sleeve and we're shaping it with decreases now. Just like before, we're working these vertical rows in the armhole base, but instead of adding stitches, we're gently subtracting them just to taper the sleeve down and mirror that beautiful balloon shape on this side. This balance between increases and decreases is what gives the set and sleeve its tailored charm. You'll get that cozy fullness up at the top and a smooth, wearable fit all the way down. We all should have ended along the outer edge, so chain 3, flip our work. Keep our back loop extension half double crochets the same, decreasing into the last 2 stitches into the base. We've done them before, so just as a refresher, into the last 2 stitches nearest to the base, a decrease. Now the connection into the base, same as the increase side, because we still want the same balloon. Slip stitch into that next stitch into the base, slip stitch up that next stitch, basically our turning chain, flip our work, and make your way down, starting with the decrease again. Continue with these 2 decrease rows until we don't have any more stitches left. The decrease side of our sleeve is completed. Now from here, we're going to seam it up. I went ahead and already did my seam because it is actually going to be the same exact seam that we did for the sides. So just making sure that our work is flipped wrong side out because we want all the seams on the same side. We're going to do our same exact single crochet seam that we did for the sides. Once when it's completed, cut, flip our work right side out, then insert your hook into the edge of our sleeve. Then we're going to cinch up the edge of the sleeve just to complete the balloon sleeve effect. Single crocheting along the edge of our sleeve, we're putting 1 single crochet in through every other side row to cinch it up. So basically, finding 1 side row, single crochet, skipping the next, single crocheting into the next. Continue on with this single crochet row, making our way all the way around. At the end, we should get a really nice cinch. Sleeve, cinched. Now we're going to close off our single crochet row. Find that chain space that we made when we started off this single crochet row. This is mine right here. Slip stitch in through there, yarn over, and just pull through everything. That's just how we connect the end to the beginning of the row. From where we left off, just make a chain the length that we'd like for the cuff to be. Mine, roughly 3 inches or 8 centimeters, so I'm starting by making a chain 12. Chain, check. Now we're going to slip stitch all the way down. Block off that last chain and chain 1. That chain 1 is our turning chain, does not count as a stitch. We're going to turn our work to work in through the back bumps for the nice clean edge, but mainly so that we can seam it with an outside loop slip stitch seam. Into that chain that we blocked off, insert into that back bump, yarn over, and pull through everything on our hook. Continue on with a slip stitch into every chain. Row 1 completed. We're going to connect it into the base the same way that we did the sleeve. So just into that next stitch into the base with a slip stitch. Remember, that's just to connect. Slip stitch up that next stitch into the base. That's basically our turning chain. None of those count as a stitch, and flip. Now with 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch, make your way down. And just remember, those slip stitches into the base don't count as a stitch. So each of these rows should have the same amount of stitches as chains that we made. Now that these 2 rows are completed, repeat all within the back loops. Our slip stitch cuff nearly done, and to keep up with that knit look, we're going to seam it with an outside loop slip stitch seam. So our work will be flipped right side out. Our hook is going through in both corners, yarn over, pull through everything, chain 1 just to secure. We're working in through both layers at the same time, so finding that first stitch into the front panel, insert only in through that front loop. And this is why we worked into the back bumps of the first row, into that first stitch, into the back panel. Yarn over, gently pull through everything. Now this is going to blend in just like another back loop slip stitch row. It's soft and stretchy, just like how we like. Sleeves, done and dusted. Well, one of them. I'm going to finish my second one off camera so that we can jump straight into the fun part together, which is the hood. We're working with the finished side out now, just so everything lines up nice and clean. Find the middle row of our neckline and pop a stitch marker into there. We should all have just one. That is going to be where our hood splits, so go ahead and pop a stitch marker into there. This is going to help shape that cozy wraparound feel. Now we're going to prep our neckline with a single crochet row. It's easy. 2 single crochets in through every side row, 1 single crochet in through every stitch. But once we hit that 1 middle row, make sure we're putting a stitch marker into each of those stitches that's worked into there. Remember, that's the middle. This row is going to set the stage for a hood that's going to hug and feel just right. So place your hook into any stitch within the neckline and get to stitching. Our single crochet row is done. It's fitting nicely, so everything's looking pretty sweet. Now we're going to build the hood. Now we want to shape that deep, cozy vibe. So for row 1, we're going to be increasing into every 4th stitch to add just a little bit of volume. But hold up, we're going to leave 3 stitches on either side of the center untouched. This is going to be where the hood brim later comes in. This setup gives the structure right where we need it and softness right where it counts. So let's get started. These are my 2 middle stitches. Counting that middle stitch, and to the right, here's 1, 2, 3, insert a stitch marker, and same on the other side. This is my middle stitch, 1, 2, 3. Now insert your hook into the stitch that's right next to that brim stitch marker stitch. Placing our yarn onto our hook, we're all going to start with a chain 3. That is our turning chain, not an actual stitch. And we're going to start with 3 extended half double crochets working towards the back. And the first one is worked into that same stitch that our chain 3 is in, because remember, the chain 3 doesn't count as a stitch, and we don't want to miss out on that stitch. So far, we should all have that chain 3, remember, doesn't count as a stitch. 1, 2, 3 extended halves. Into that next, we're all going to do an increase, so that's just 2 extended halves in the same stitch. Continue with our 3 extended halves, increase into the next all the way around until we reach our next brim stitch marker stitch. Remember, we're not working into those middle stitches. And at the end of this increase row, we all want to make sure that we're ending on an odd number of stitches. So if you need to, go ahead and add 1 additional stitch into that last stitch. The first row for our hood is looking nice and cozy. Once we get the depth of the hood, just back loop extended half doubles straight up. No additional increases, no additional decreases until we hit the top of our head. Then we're going to add just a few more rows with some decreases along the back of the head just to help smooth out the top of the hood. Then we're going to seam it up together. Alright, we have just hit the peak, literally. The hood does have some height to it. I have a total of 22 rows, that's not including that first single crochet row, and that's just about 11 inches or 28 centimeters. Now we're going to shape that gentle curve so that it hugs the back of our head just right. For these next few rows, we're just working decreases right in the middle. Nothing fancy, it is the same decrease 3 that we've been doing this entire time, so we've got this. That's where we want the hood to dip and fold naturally, giving it that super comfy cocoon shape. So find your 1 middle stitch, should be 1 for everyone, then put 1 back loop extended half double into every stitch, leaving 1 right before the stitch marker. Then a decrease of 3 back loop extended halves the same way that we've been doing this entire time. Once when that stitch is completed, just make sure that we're inserting a stitch marker into the top of that middle stitch right before we finish up the row with the rest of our back loop extended half doubles so that we can repeat this row for the total height that we need. Hood shaping complete. I now have a total of 25 rows. That's 13 inches or 33 centimeters, and now we have that gentle curve all stitched in. And now it's time to bring it all together with our seam. We're folding our work wrong side out, then inserting our hook in through both the corner stitches. And now we're going to do the same single crochet seam that we did for the sleeve and for the sides, seaming straight across the top, locking in the sculpted shape of our hood. Once it's joined, flip it right side out and admire that silhouette. Now speaking of the brim, this is where cozy meets clever. Now remember those untouched stitches that we left along the hood center? Those are about to shine. We're going to build the brim that overlaps at the edge. And it may sound overwhelming, I totally get it, but it's actually not that hard. It's very, very similar to the way that we did the cuff, so we already know how it's done. We're all going to start with a single crochet row first, so making sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. Insert our hook into the stitch that we have that's nearest to the edge of our hood, and working our way up and over, simply 2 single crochets in through every side row, and then slip stitch into that next stitch that we have on the other side of our hood. Now that this single crochet row is completed, we're now going to start stacking our slip stitch rows to build the tunnel for the drawstring. Our work needs to be flipped right side out, right side up. We're going to start the brim on the left side of our first available stitch, and we're going to be anchoring into the right. So insert your hook into that first available stitch's front loop only. We're going to leave those back loops until we make our way all the way around, and then those are going to be the stitches where we seam our brim into. Now to make this easier, I am going to flip my work over, but when I have this row completed, I'll show you how we're going to connect it into the base, which is that single crochet row. We just single crocheted into the front loops. Now we're at the base, so where our tail end is for that single crochet row. We're going to connect it into the base. Connecting it into the base is going to be done the same way that we connected into the base for the sleeve and the cuff. We're just going to be splitting the top of the stitch, so we're going to be connecting into the front loop, working our way around, and then connecting into the back loop to close off that row. So this is my first available stitch right here. I'm going to slip stitch it, which is anchoring this first front loop single crochet row into the loop that's furthest away from us. So insert with a slip stitch. Remember, that slip stitch doesn't actually count as a stitch. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch up that next available stitch. We're still just working into that loop that's furthest away from us, because once we make our way around, we're going to slip stitch into that same stitch. So into that next stitch, just into that outside loop, still doesn't count as a stitch, flip our work. These are the 2 slip stitches into the base. These are the front loop single crochets that we just did. Working into those single crochets, we're going to split the top of these stitches as well. So 1 slip stitch into the front loops, then working our way around, working into the back loops. Find that first stitch's front loop with 1 slip stitch. Next with another, and then once we make our way over to this corner, so that last available single crochet, we're going to turn our work over. Now for this first row, it might be a little difficult because they're a little tight. Make sure we're not working into those single crochets that's into the base of the hood, just into that single crochet row that we did. And just continue with 1 slip stitch into each of these stitches. Then connect it into the base. So this is a stitch that we worked into that was on the outside. We made our way around. This is the front loop of that same stitch. Just slip stitch into that front loop only. Remember, those slip stitches into the base doesn't count as a stitch. Now if you're having a difficult time, don't worry, the first few rows are always the hardest. But just remember, it's basically the same as the cuff. The only difference is that when we're connecting it into the base, we're just splitting the top of the stitch. Now I'm going to get just a few more rows done just to show you guys the general shape that we're doing. Then we can just continue on from there. So I have just a few more of our brim rows completed, and this is what it should look like. It does look like our cuff, but it's just kind of folded in half. And to make sure that everything is running smoothly, we should be able to fit our hook into that little tunnel that we're making. Just continue to repeat these rows, no increases, no decreases, making our way all the way up and over. Once we don't have any more stitches left, I'll meet you back so we can seam it up to the base. We have just made our way all the way up and around with our brim. If it's starting to cinch up like this, that is totally fine, completely normal. Pull it apart, that should help it just a smidge. Now we should have all worked into that last stitch. Now we're just going to seam it into those available stitches that we left for ourselves when we got started on the whole brim. Same single crochet seam as the sides, the sleeves, and the hood. So just flip your work wrong side out, single crochet seam into those available back loops, and also into the stitches of the brim as well. We have just seamed up the brim. Last step in this process is our drawstring. I just doubled up on my yarn and just made a chain so that it's a little bit thicker than a normal chain. Then all I'm going to do is actually just take my hook and just place it in through any side row within the inside of the hood, because just in case if we take the hook out, there might be a little gap. I'm just going to poke it through the front, roughly in between the first and second rib. Place my yarn on my hook and just pull all the way up and through, and then pull it through between the first and second rib on this side, and make sure I have even tail ends. We have just completed inserting our drawstring, and now we are all done. The last thing we have to do is simply weave in all of our ends. And there you have it, your very own cozy hoodie shrug. I absolutely love how this turned out. If you made one and posted on Instagram, be sure to tag us. I love featuring them in my stories. Don't forget to grab the written pattern, link down below, use code TCDDIY for your discount. And now for this week's pattern giveaway, tell us how many pillows you sleep with. I'm gonna say 2.5 for me. Catch you on the next one. Bye!